Retro Future.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. I am Fitzgerald H. Bendelsmith here with another lecture on the world of the Association of Ishtar. Say, do you think history is too boring? That the role of secret societies is undervalued, and you need more big stumpy robots fighting aliens? Today, in this special lecture, I'll answer your questions regarding the world of the Association of Ishtar, a world of cosmic mystery and steampunk adventure in which the Association battle alien invaders and secret societies. Currently, we were working on our RPG, NIGHTWATCH, which is based on this very setting. Our community is working on developing its history, factions and vehicles over on Discord. If you want to get involved, this video will bring you up to speed on some of the basic principles behind the settings, but also some of the topics we have yet to explore in our fiction. After curating your questions, the theme of this Q&A has become the narrative foundations of this steampunk universe of cosmic mystery and adventure. So if you're new to the setting and want some quick info, this is the video for you. After this, we'll have an alt history series on this channel that will explain all the historical developments of the setting in detail. Be free to type your questions in the comments for future Q&As, or maybe we can dedicate an episode on that very subject. Now on with the questions. Jovanovic 2504 asks, what are rifts? And what is the defining feature of the world of Atlas? And how do I get a glorious beard like yours? To start with the last, my model is called a ski beard. I use a straight razor for shaving. Also, proper skin maintenance is key. Therefore, you'll need proper beard oil to moisturize the skin underneath. The better barbers should sell it, otherwise you can get it online. They even got a special brush to spread it out properly. As for the world, Atlas is the designation or code phrase used for the Association's home plane, so it's not the actual name. It's a 19th century Earth, but what makes it different from other worlds in this multiverse is that more and more rifts keep opening up. Rifts are anomalous gateways to other worlds. Usually a world has one or two, but on Atlas more keep appearing. And by 1870 there's an estimated 200 of these things, and they keep discovering more. Mr. Kendall asks, what was the reason for technology to progress in this world, and where's the timeline of the series branching off from the real-life one? The latter would be about the time a mysterious object appears around the orbit of the moon in 1791. More on that later. Things escalate, however, during the Napoleonic Wars when the French started to shoot R2 rockets at England. For the full story on these rockets and the space program that emerged from them, check out our first video in our alt history series about the colonization of India and how those events inspired the creation of the R2 rocket, Ghulam Ali and his Babylon space program. That said, most events unfolded similarly up until 1869. We'll explore this timeline further in our upcoming RPG NIGHTWATCH, which has about 50 pages of new lore and short stories set in the period between the Napoleonic Wars and the outbreak of the Franco-Prussian War. So, go follow our Kickstarter today so you won't miss it when it launches in October. What led to the early technological developments are, again, the rifts. Most rifts lead to savage variations of Earth, but most have not evolved past the classical era, if they even have any human presence at all. But some do lead to very advanced, futuristic worlds that are a treasure trove of technological knowledge. But acquiring said technology isn't as simple as going over there and stealing a guy's car to reverse engineer it. Which brings us to the next question. DJ DeVille asks, what is Traveler's Decay? Traveler's Decay is a phenomena designated P10, a preternatural affliction that hits anyone or anything that traverses a rift into another world. At first its symptoms are unnoticeable, but after a week complex devices might start to malfunction or break. Living objects might start to show symptoms in the third week. They might start to suffer from headaches, low blood pressure, and strange dreams. And they might start shedding grayish flakes. These symptoms will start getting worse and worse until the victim is nothing but a starking mad corpse until it falls apart, leaving nothing but a fine grey powder, simply known as grey stuff. It's for this reason that all the rift locations are surrounded by this black sand, caused by what gets blown through the rifts from the other side. To avoid these symptoms, travelers are advised not to linger and to return in 2 weeks. As for the grey stuff itself, it's innocent. As far as scientists can tell, it's utterly inert. They can't even agree if the stuff should be included in the periodic table. But if you want the full story of P10, it's on Ream. Become a follower for free on that platform, or help support the channel by becoming a member, and you'll gain access to all our ebooks and bonus STL files for your 3D printing pleasure. Spyglass Jack asks, how dangerous is maritime travel with world trade? Had maritime tech advanced rapidly like it has on land, or is it much slower due to building speed? As discussed before, it's increasingly become more dangerous as time progresses due to the prevalence of weird beasts. That said, in most places, the greatest concern is still good old-fashioned piracy. That said, with the introduction of steam and combustion engines on Navy ships, piracy is on the decline. Also, the introduction of explosive shells tips the balance further in favor of the authorities. A recent Dutch advance is the introduction of turbine engines, which makes ships even faster, but these are still rare at this point. There is some skepticism regarding these engines, as they lack the torque of traditional machines. DJ DeVille asks, what is weird tech? Weird tech is a subjective category of objects and devices whose functionality is poorly understood. These can be intelligent automata, anomalous weapons, or strange radio transmissions from beyond the rifts, and much, much more. Spyglass Jack asks, is romanticism still a thing, and will there be a medievalist revival? Alright, this one might require a bit of context. In the tumultuous Victorian era, people re-evaluated the concept of progress, especially regarding the situation of those who were left behind. Until this time, the life of the elite was the usual topic of artistic depiction. Artists, poets, and writers started focusing their attentions more on the poor and their place in society. This was also a reaction to the phenomena of contemporism, or contemporitis, in which the past was being appraised according to the contemporary standards of that day. In this worldview, the people of the past were considered to be mentally inferior because they didn't achieve the technological standards of today and were far more religious. How dare they? This is also where the name Middle Ages was conceived. It was the in-between period between the classical age of the Romans and the now, and everything in between was considered to be irrelevant. Movements like the antiquarians and the romantics, however, started to change things. Not only did they promote the idea of rural life over that of the city, poverty over wealth, etc., there was a re-evaluation of history. There's a story of a guy testing out a medieval crossbow on a public square, nearly killing a random passerby because he expected the weapon to be no more powerful than a child's plaything. This kinda made people wonder what else these medieval bastards could produce. Also, medieval manuscripts on martial arts were being discovered, leading to the creation of new fencing societies. This medievalism also made its way into architecture, leading to things like the House of Parliament. But for more information, I'll direct you to our video on the arts and crafts movement that is also on this channel. But the question was, does all of this also happen in AOI? Yes, and more. But that is a story for another day. In the Casket Girls, we are, however, introduced to the Knights of Avalon, a bunch of nerds who want to revive the concept of knighthood in the 19th century by fighting aliens in armored hazard suits. If you want to read more, you can get the Casket Girls in ebook and paperback on Gumroad, link below. Drifter Dracul asks, if the rifts that let loose monsters can open up basically anywhere, I'm wondering about the factories in your world. How are they getting the material they need to build your cool tanks, weapons, and ammo? Yes, rifts can open up anywhere. I had a minor character ask this very same question in a recent short story. Logistics are a big concern for the powers that be. In fact, in our upcoming RPG, we'll introduce the Neo-Hanaltic League that has been founded to secure the European river deltas and waterways. Uttercup is also obsessed with the matter of funding countless infrastructural projects and ship developments to protect the trade lanes. Uttercup also has supported these guys in this proposal, the Knights of Avalon, who are introduced again in the Casket Girls. DJ DeVille asks, what are weird beasts? Like weird tech, it's a subjective category for creatures passing through the rift. The thing is that they can vary from lost chickens, dinosaurs and bugs to monstrosities with anomalous qualities and preternatural abilities. The problem is that even the innocent ones can become an ecological catastrophe if not contained. Mr. Kendall asks, are there any cults and gods? Oh, there are cults. NIGHTWATCH will in fact contain a cult creation guide. So, do you think that Heaven's Gate were just a bunch of navel gazers? Or that the cult of Cthulhu are too mid? Create your own in NIGHTWATCH. As far as deities are concerned, it depends on what you mean by gods. All the world religions are represented. There's even a Cthulhian Christian sect called Alliance of Judah. Again, check out our stories on Ream. Become a follower there. It really helps me to be discovered in their algorithm. DJ DeVille asks, what is the P-series nomenclature? Alright, if you go to Ream, you'll notice that many short stories start with a letter and a number, like S36. These categories are: S is for subject, C for construction, and P for phenomenon. Discoveries by the Association and RA are recorded in files that have a category and a numerical designation. Subjects are related to individual life forms or organizations, be they human or otherwise. Construct files are related to machines, weapons, and automaton. Phenomena usually refer to anomalous activities and peculiar occurrences. In practice, the P nomenclature is used for anything that isn't a subject or a construct. DJ DeVille asks, who are the Travelers? Travelers is the usual term for anyone who traverses the rift, and that is all it means. That said, in fiction, the act of rift travel is often treated as easy as stepping through a door. But there's far more to it than that. Only in time will many travelers realize the consequences of a seemingly innocent experience. It marks you in more way than one. But that's a story for another time. Drifter Dracul asks, if trains are your main mode of transportation, depending on the regions of battle, how steady is the steel or iron for these tracks? How about the coal for the engines, or have they switched over to diesel engines? He refers to the trains of the International Penal Legion. It really depends on the region, who made them, etc. Some tracks are temporary, for example. However, due to internal communities obsessed with logistics, there is a decree that all railroads throughout Europe have a gauge of 1.45 meters wide to facilitate internal troop transports throughout the continent. As for the engines, all of them are being used, although diesel and combustion engines are still somewhat rare in trains. DJ DeVille asks, who are RA? Oh boy, we have 2 whole videos discussing who they are and how their organization came to be. RA is short for the International Regulatory Committee for Rift-Related Activity. That sounds vague, and that is intentional. Some simply call it the Rift Authority, which is only partly accurate because authority is one of the last things anyone associates with this organization. They're supposed to have the final word on rift containment in Europe and beyond. Their job is to enforce the Hague Charter, meaning they counter clandestine rift travel and reverse engineering. In practice, they only catalog rift locations, anomalies, and reverse engineer technology, as they may not infringe on a nation's sovereignty. They are not entirely without teeth, though. Although legally they are muzzled, they have many friends, shall we say. Friends without borders who care little about things like diplomatic immunity. As the rift containment sector is growing, RA is an increasingly big spider in an ever-expanding web. Mr. Kendall asks, who are the world powers? The mid-19th century is the age of Western Empire, in particular Britain, on whose empire the sun never sets. Meanwhile, the Ottomans are in decline, the Russians are on the verge of revolt due to a lack of modernization, and the Chinese are occupied with the bloodiest civil war since 1850 that has more casualties than the Crimean conflict a dozen times over. It's 20 years later and there's still no end in sight as a mysterious plague sweeps the Chinese countryside. But your question was probably, who are the real powers behind the throne? In the less official history, many powers are competing for control behind the scenes. Meanwhile, governments are doing politics as usual, while various factions are preparing for the coming age dictated by whatever pours through the rifts. Some fight it, while others embrace the change. But their stories are yet to be told. DJ DeVille asks, who are the Penal Legion and the Casket Girls? Actually, our next video will be about these guys, and they have their own book now, The Casket Girls. The Penal Legion recruited members from remote places of the Empire, primarily the Qian prison colony. The problem with fighting weird beasts is that you never know what you're going to get. It might result in a loss of experience and very expensive personnel. There are also the weapon restrictions dictated by the Decay Charter, which we discussed in our videos on Raw. Enter the expendable force deployed across the world, the IPL. Under Raw supervision, these expendable troops are sent into anomalous areas so they deal with the problem and perhaps survive to describe their experiences for Raw's archives for future reference. They're not entirely powerless though. Due to their international status, they are allowed to use the more advanced technologies the military complex can produce, including the iconic CB-3 automata that are piloted by the titular Casket Girls, female convicts who are also recruited from the same penal colony. That is really it, they pilot mechas. But if you want to know more, watch our video on Qian and the next video on the IPL. Don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell. Pineapple Fishy 758 asks, favorite invention or machine you have come up with for the series? I've come up with many machines for the series, so it's hard to keep track. Overall, people love the CB-3 automata, and I intend to keep it in the series despite it becoming obsolete technology as these CBs become more prominent in the future. Drifter Cole asks, if airships, how steady is the helium and hydrogen supply? How volatile is it? Where do you build your factories and distribution centers so that rift monsters or strategic interference from other nations doesn't interfere with the distribution of critical supplies? All manner of blimps are used, just not for military purposes, with the exception being observation. For lift, both helium and hydrogen are being used, but helium is preferred by most because of a far less flammable, and tracer rounds or incendiary rounds are already a thing, so yeah. As for engines, they all use combustion engines, as fuel tends to depend on the tax climate. In the Netherlands, for example, kerosene is tax-free, making it very cheap fuel for aircraft. Overall, kerosene is gaining ground to its cold resistance. As for production, well, there is no way to tell where rifts will occur, although there are more and more people are performing certain surveys of land to see if rifts are nearby. That's also one of the reasons why the association is called in to check for these things in certain situations. But really, there is no way to prevent it. As for distribution, I already explained the situation about the Neo-Analtic League. Okay, the next question is for the die-hard fans of this show, which contains spoilers for the short story P13 and Bound for the Sticks, so you've been warned. What is Elesium? If Elesium is the place where refugees from destroyed worlds go to live out their lives, does that make Elesium the only known place where Traveler's Decay does not exist? Alright, for those who are not aware, Elesium is the name given to the bell-shaped object that appeared in the night sky one night in 1791, and has been drifting in the orbit of the moon ever since. Nobody knows where it came from, but it had a massive impact on society and would inspire space travel. Once again, I'll refer to you to the first 2 episodes of our lore series. We also made a dedicated video on Elesium, and we have a novel exploring the insides of the place called Bound for the Styx and the Archaeology Companion. As a matter of fact, a book about the world's fluffiest double agent Enwin will also take place there, and that will go into the more seedy aspects of the place. So, more on that world is to come. But yes, those inside are not affected by Traveler's Decay. And yes, that is the only place right now in the multiverse that is known to be the case. Alright, well, those were your questions. Let me know what you think, and if you've got more questions in the future, please submit them in the comments so I can answer them in a future video. Currently, I already have a bunch of videos planned. We have another video on Dieselpunk coming up. We will have a video on steampunk cities, which will also explore some cities in the Association of Ishtar universe. So yeah, we got a whole bunch of stuff lined up for you. And of course, in the meantime, we are working on our RPG. If you are interested in playtesting, let me know, so we can get some playtest going, and so we are prepared for the launch of our Kickstarter in October, and we can get out all the stuff. If you want to support this Kickstarter, please let me know what you want for things like stretch goals, merchandise, extra utilities, etc. We already have a whole bunch of STLs for you to print out. I might approach some printers to see if we can find a way to make printing miniatures affordable, but I mean that's always going to be very expensive. So, but yeah, we'll do a separate Q&A probably on all the elements of a role-playing game once we are further in development, so hopefully August. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to follow us on Kickstarter. We already have over 40 followers, amazing, in less than a week. So yeah, please keep that going. Please tell your friends, share it on role-playing Discord, spread the word. I'm sure you're gonna love it. So, as far as I'm concerned, this is gonna be the first truly steampunk role-playing game based on what I've seen elsewhere. So, go check that out. And yeah, as always, make things your way. Good night.